So I was reading a book recently that was talking about the healing of wounds that we have gotten, say, with our parents. And in particular, it was talking about the relationship between children and their parents with respect to the different sexes. So, for example, a boy will have different responses to issues with mom than he will with dad, and same with a girl. The differences in the type of emotion that the child feels with respect to how they interpret what the parent did to them. In particular, this author mentioned that a son, for example, will look at his father and say, okay, think of the father, if there was any kind of missing something in the connection there, that the son will think that his father rejected him. Whereas if there's something missing with the mother in the relationship, he will think that she abandoned him. So the child will look at the parent of the same sex and consider any abuse a rejection, and the parent of the opposite sex, he'll view any abuse as an abandonment. So I found this quite interesting because I'd never thought of it that way before. But if you really look at your relationship with your parents, you may be able to identify how your feelings toward your parent of your opposite sex could be associated with abandonment in the parent of the same sex, that any of the negative feelings you have, you may interpret as abandonment. And I noticed this particularly for me. And as I started exploring those feelings, I actually was able to take it a step further. I didn't read far enough into this book by the author to see if she actually addressed these secondary feelings, but the feelings that came up for me with respect to the abandonment was anger. So I felt angry toward my parent, who I felt the abandonment from, which happened to be my mother. And yet, for the parent from whom I felt the rejection from, my father, I felt sadness. So there was this secondary emotion, which is the sadness associated with the rejection and the anger associated with the abandonment. And I found this very interesting because if this is a consistent pattern among humans, that they would feel this type of emotion toward the opposite sex parent, then it explains why a lot of times women complain of men being misogynistic, or that men have anger toward women, because it makes sense that if there was something missing in the relationship with a child, the son, the boy, and his mother, that he will end up feeling an abandonment that will result in an anger toward her, which then will manifest itself in his future relationships with women, so that he will tend to react in ways toward women that are in his life as an adult, or even a teenage years and into adulthood, with a sense of resentment or anger that he probably feels toward his mother. Likewise, women who have had a feeling of something missing with the father may experience this similar attitude of resentment associated with the abandonment they feel from the father. And that resentment and or anger could be manifesting itself in the way that they treat other men. So if they don't have a strong bond or a healthy, what they feel is a healthy relationship with their father, they will tend to feel an abandonment of the father, which will then result in strained relationships with men and probably even anger toward them because of this feeling of abandonment / anger toward dad. Anyway, this was just an interesting thing that I found both in reading something about it and then in my own discovery, uncovering secondary emotions, which is the anger and the sadness. Anger associated with the abandonment parent, the one of the opposite sex, and sadness associated with the rejection parent, which is the parent of the same sex. Check this out for yourself and see if you feel similar feelings with regard to your two parents as you're going on your own healing journey. Ciao.